round 7, as I said before, this was the first week in Super Rugby Pacific where we had some buys. So we had buys for the Chiefs, Waratahs, Force, and Drua. And the first game was the Crusaders and Moana Pacifica, which was a fantastic game. And it really kind of was almost went down to the wire. It was really in the balance, kind of into the 70th minutes almost. But Harry, do you want to take us through your thoughts on that game?
Yeah, look, I think Moana kind of showed us what they've showed us every week, and that is that Timothy Tavatavanawai and Levi Amua are just outrageous talents, and no one's able to stop them. I think at one point, Amua scored a try where he just ran an unders line and just bumped through about 3 tackles. It's just unfair how good the two of them are. I think they cracked 70 tackle busts between them now this week, surely.
Yeah.
So it's just, it really is just those two dominating. And I'd be very worried to see Moana playing without them. But yeah, they're just worth so many points.
There's only really one fight for MVP, Super Rugby Pacific MVP, and it's between them. That's it. The season.
I like it. As you said, it was pretty close up until about the 60th minute, and then the Crusaders scored a couple of late tries to kind of pull away from them. But Dallas McLeod was the big in, I guess, with Leicester pulling out with that tight calf. He played 80. But he was very, very good again. I think, despite that, David Avili came on after about 6 minutes with Jack Goodhue getting a concussion as well. So good to see Avili back in the mix, but probably a little bit quiet as well. So he's now got another week or a couple of weeks to get his body right.
Yep, very good. And we saw, if you're not joining us, of course, watching the video, you would see Harry's background picture for this ep is none other than Settle Down Milani Nanai. We saw him debut for the Crusaders. Little 16-minute cameo there at the end, but, mate, just as exciting as ever back in Super Rugby. He had 3 awesome touches, these 2 offloads that both created huge breaks, and the last one, in fact, resulted in the final Crusaders try. So he just looks dangerous, and we've all here got our fingers crossed that he just starts on the right wing for the Crusaders, replacing Sever Reeves for the rest of the year, even though none of us managed to pick him up in our fantasy sides.
We've got 2 good sides, mate. 2 good sides. We didn't need them.
That's it. Well, Nels, anything else to add on that one, or do you want to jump into the next game?
No, look, I'll jump into the Reds Brumbies. This was touted by a lot of Reds fans as going to be as good as the Brumbies Waratahs, and I can confirm it was not. The Reds started well. They scored a try early with Manny Fassler scoring in 5 minutes, just throwing the ball around, all out attack from the Reds. But in the 9th minute, we had that yellow upgraded to red card from Angus Blythe. Really technique. I don't think it was malicious, but it was idiotic. So he deserves a red card. I think he deserves to sit out for a number of weeks after that. But yeah, so he was upgraded to a red card, but he could still be replaced after 20 minutes, which, I mean, even felt too soft. Like, he should have been red carded. No one replaced him, I thought, for the rest of the match.
Well, that was an interesting one for me, is that they said depending on how it's reviewed, there is a type of review. I forget exactly what they have to call it, but there's a type of review where he wouldn't be able to be replaced for the rest of the match.
There's a full 80-minute red card that can come from the ref. I'm not sure if that can come from the review though.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. They were talking about it in commentary, but I didn't know that. I didn't even know that was a possibility in Super Rugby Pacific. But they said there is a scenario in which you can get a red card and cannot replace the player.
Yeah, look, I think the thing for him was that it was reckless, but it wasn't, him punching someone in the head.
Malicious.
Yeah.
It wasn't malicious. But look, yeah, he took Corey Toole out in the process, apparently of trying to charge a kick down. Corey Toole did not look okay. I felt really bad from there. Really, really unstable on his feet. And people say that cards ruin games, but not having Corey Toole, the hotline, Corey hotline was missing in this one, and that was a bit of a bummer. But yeah, look, the Reds scored a pretty good try after that through Tate McDermott, off a pretty messy ball off the line out. Just showed that he should be, considered for the Wallabies squad. But yeah, we also had a pretty good try. Nossie Lonergan went over from a line-out maul. And then we also had a line-out maul from Fraser McWright. Since when do the Brumbies let them in and when do the Reds score them? But that's pretty much all she wrote. The Brumbies broke away with this one and ended up winning 52-24.
I think the crazy thing for me in this one was the Reds scored 2 rolling maul tries. And that's off the back of a tight 5 that have looked like they have absolutely nothing in the maul. So the Brumbies being the strongest maul team in the comp, I thought that was really exceptional from them. And meant, I think you can see the growth in their game as a tight 5 with such a young pack. It was a really good sign for them, despite the fact that obviously the Brumbies came out at halftime and just kind of took control and looked like they kind of turned the screws a little bit too hard for the Reds to go with them. But that was definitely one positive for the Reds.
Yeah, for sure. And they still looked a little, I don't know, like maybe a little lost with Lawson Crichton was obviously starting at 10. And when James O'Connor came on, it's not like he really steadied up the ship too much. They kind of just look like they're just lacking that bit of punch to get the ball out. Mate, they're missing Paisami. They just can't seem to get the ball out to their dangerous wingers and whatnot.
I hate to say it, but Harry and I were chatting about this. Thorne doesn't seem to be the guy to get him out, out of this slump. Previously he's had a lot of good coaches around him. At the moment, he seems to be struggling, and there's something not right in terms of the attack, in terms of just how this team plays. There are very, very good footy players on the paddock, but something is not right at the moment.
All right, this is our second week of a podcast call out in a row. Last week we had the Force. This week we've got the Reds. We're coming after every. You'll notice we'll never come at the Tars though.
Please, mate. We definitely came at them.
Sorry, I forget about that. We come at the Tars the most actually. So
we had a whole year. We had a whole year of tearing them to shreds. So.
Yeah. We did. We still
complain about Daryl Gibson. He hasn't coached at the Tars for years.
I was going to say we're still looking for that marketing department, those empty desks in there, but in SRU, whatever. But
guys, next game, Highlanders versus the Hurricanes. The Hurricanes got it done 14-29. It felt pretty close. I think similar to the Reds Brumbies. Like early on in the game, for the first half of the game, it felt like it was going to go either way, but the Hurricanes just managed to pull away. They were just, I guess, a class above. Cargie, what do you have on this one?
Yeah, sorry, tuned out then. I agree. It did. The scoreline at the end there makes it seem like it's double the score, but the Highlanders were much more impressive. Falau Fakatava looked really good in at 10 there, and Cam Miller I thought was quite impressive. So Mitch Hunt was pulled out pre-game, and the youngster I'm not sure if this was his starting debut or if he had started one game previously this year at 10.
Starting debut, but he'd come off the bench once.
He had come off the bench, yeah. So he was really good. But I mean, speaking of the halves that were amazing, Roigard has talk about players of the competition. I was talking about the 2 Moana Pacifica players, but Cameron Roigard, he's got to be.
He's good.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
Man, I don't think anyone calls him Cameron unless he's in travel. But yeah, Cam Roigard, he is in my eyes the future All Black for sure in this 9 jersey and could be there for a long time. There are the good players around, but he is looking special.
I think I just saw an article today and it was talking about that. He's knocking on the door for higher honours already. I was like, all right, let's calm down. But, maybe.
Oh, mate, he is 100%. He's I mean, don't get me wrong. The competition is Aaron Smith, Brad Weber and TJ Perinara. And those 3 are pretty impressive for a long period of time. But he's on form. He's definitely competing. And I think he's 4th in line already.
Yeah, you're probably right. He probably is. Now, I don't know, because I tuned out whether you talked about this or not, Harry, but the Highlanders, they went from basically towards the end of the game, they just started turning the ball over again and again and again. So from about the 50th minute, I think we've got them at 5 turnovers, and at the end of the game, they'd lost it about 17 times. So
it was the minute that Frizzell came off at 50 minutes. They were 5 turnovers. At the end of the game, it was 17.
So you saying that they can't catch without Frizzell on the field? Is that the relevance of the Frizzell statement?
No, what I'm saying is, he clearly was working hard around the breakdown and securing the ball, and then all of a sudden, when he's walked off the field, they weren't securing the ball at all. They weren't working hard enough in the breakdown to keep the ball, and they were having major issues. He was working very hard at breakdown.
The handling was also just so poor, though. They knocked it on every freaking time they had a chance.
It's true.
Yeah, but that was all game.
As a Frizzell fan and with him in my fantasy team, I agree. He is that talismanic type of character, just provides an aura. But I'd like him to do less of that work around the breakdown and more of his just barnstorming carries, please, because that's how I get my fantasy points. But no, anyway, it was a good one. But let's push on to the last game of the round. The Rebels taking on the Blues in Melbourne, and
wait,
would you believe me?
I had what? Oh, you had one more point, mate. Do you know who? Do you know what the biggest grub in the world is?
The Witchery.
Do you want me to get your punchline here or what?
Mate, it's the Herculean grub, but the second is Dane Coles. That guy is a bloody grub. The footage of him just smacking people, elbowing people. Honestly, I'll put it out there. That bloke is a piece of shit. He is a horrible person. And I like shithousery on the field. Mate, I like shithousery on the field. But he has lost some of the positive things he does on the field. And now he's just absolute shithousery. And it's not to a point of being good.
Mate, I've watched you play rugby, and it was about 90% shithousery, 10% playing rugby. Okay,
I know, and that's where the line is. And still, he's just fed up. He's still
very good.
Look, I agree. He's just nonstop, and he's not actually playing the game anymore. It's almost like he's realizing his body's letting him down from the incredible athlete that he was. The way that he can make an impact is just to be a grub and try and throw people off their game, but. I don't understand how he doesn't get pinged. If it's that bad, just ping him. Like, why do no ref ever penalise him?
I think the refs are scared of him as well. You know what I
mean? Mate, that's park footy stuff. Go play park footy, mate, if you're going to behave like that.
Guys, Rebels versus the Blues. Yeah. Halftime, 17-14 to the Rebels. Looking strong, in control. And then, Cargie, what happened?
That's what I was going to say. Would you believe me if I told you the Rebels were ahead at halftime? It was an unbelievable start, but... the second half, I think they just stopped rebelling, basically. You know what I mean? They just conceded the white flag. You like that one, did you know?
That was good, mate.
Yeah, thank you. But no, they just absolutely fell away and kind of like momentum started shifting and just, have completely got away from them. I have to say, I think Bowden had an absolutely fantastic game.
Oh, look, on Bowden, yeah. Like, he did have a good game. His crossfield kick, his grabber, his little chip, everything. But his kicking game was brilliant. He's not bringing his ball in hand game, his running game, which as a fantasy manager of his, I'd love to see. But the Rebels in the second half had 25% of possession.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Momentum
with 25%.
Yeah,
I mean, it is hard to get the ball if you're not making any tackles.
That's it. If you're not making any tackles, and if and yeah, I mean, look, that's going back to what Bowden was doing. Man, he had the ball on a string. He just these perfect little crossfield kicks. I think at least 3, maybe 4 tries he set up with crossfield kicks. I know he definitely kicked one to each wing. He kicked a little, chip and chase through himself, and then put a grubber through for another mark to lay a try. I mean, he was just on fire. They just couldn't stop him. So
his short kicking game has always been a real strength for him as well, and it was in full force in this game, but. I think the Rebels also did it pretty tough with all the injuries through their front row as well. Murphy obviously going off pretty early in the game. And then they had Ilof, Pone and Ulysses all go off within the second half as well. They ended up with Talakai at hooker. They couldn't really secure their set piece after that. And it kind of all fell away from there. It was almost like they just needed something to go against them. And then after that, the Blues really grew in confidence and the Rebels kind of faded away. But Brad Wilkin, I thought exceptional again. He's just been going from strength to strength, probably the highlight of the Rebels for me.
For sure. And this is also the Blues running out, like their back row, if you think about it, was Choate, Papali'i and Segner. They didn't even have Akira or Hoskins in there in the fold. So pretty incredible. Talking about all those injuries, my favourite part was Ulysses completely having done his ankle for the, let's say, 700th time in his career. And then they still made him stay on just to throw that last line out before halftime where they scored that try. And you're watching him like limping along to get to join the back of the mall and just kind of like fell over. It's the funniest thing ever. But no, it was good. I don't know. I think someone here has said Harry Plummer thought he had a good run there at 12.
Yeah, I think. Look,
yeah, mate.
Go on, else.
Yeah, that was my point. So I just thought we'd go through. He ran over 100 metres and he looked really, really solid for them in that 12 jersey. Yeah, I think he looked at home there. Was it Bryce Heem maybe we had, fill that role earlier as well, like the week before? I think he played a bit of time there at 12. So, it's looking harder and harder for Roger Tuivasa-Sheck. He's come across
as 13 for Rico.
Yeah, I think Plummer's played there ever since Tuivasa-Sheck's been injured.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he needs to fix it though, so he can play everywhere.
Yeah.